This video is going to be all about cooking beef fajita and salmon for tacos. First thing we're going to do is start off making some pico de gallo. So I'm using some Roma tomatoes. I'm going to cut about 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to make a 180-degree turn and again cut the other side about 3/4 of the way through, a 90-degree turn, and then again about 3/4 of the way through that tomato, lay it on its side, and make some nice dice cuts. You do want to try to get those little bits nice and small. The next portion is going to be dicing an onion. I'm going to cut the whole thing in half, place one half cut side down, and make a series of cuts from the top all the way through to the bottom of the board. Give it a 90-degree turn, and then that will start my dicing cuts. The natural layering of the onion will give you your dicing cuts without having to make any additional cuts except for the ones showed here. Next is going to be a finely chopped jalapeno. I'm going to remove the top stem, cut the entire thing in half, and I'm going to remove all the seeds and the white pith on the inside. I want to get as much of this out because all I want is the flavor of the jalapeno without all the heat. If you like the heat, leave the seeds and the white pith inside. If you're serving a lot of people that may not all be the thrill-seeking, make it as hot as possible type of person, this is a method I recommend to give you all the flavor without the heat. Once all the seeds and the pith is removed, you want to cut that lengthways into thin strips. And then we're going to finely chop that, getting nice small bits of jalapeno that will spread throughout the pico de gallo without having to use a whole lot of jalapeno. If you want to use more, that's totally up to you. I'm adding some bell pepper. 3 different colors really gives it a nice presentation. And the same method as the jalapeno, removing the top and stem, cutting the whole things in half, and removing the seeds and the pith. Using the mini bells, I don't find removing the white pith and seed removing a lot of heat, but I do find it's a lot easier to consume without trying to chew through seeds that may be hard on your teeth at times. And like I said, same as the jalapeno, we're going to cut that into thin strips. I usually can cut 3 or 4 halves of the bells and then make my fine dicing chops. Instead of trying to do 1 half at a time, it just helps me get through it faster. Next is going to be some fresh lime. Just going to cut it in half. Use my lime squeezer juicer thingy and just squeeze some lime juice over the entire thing, and it'll get mixed in a little bit. In the movie Jaws, they needed a bigger boat. I need a bigger bowl. I put all my chopped ingredients into that bowl, and I like using the Tupperware style, sealable bowl so I can shake it up and get everything mixed. Now, of course, you saw me add some salt. That was some Himalayan pink salt. And now I'm adding about a tablespoon of olive oil. That does increase the flavor quite well. Now, let's just give it a nice shake and mix all of those ingredients up. All of my chopped ingredients gets mixed through all of the salt as well as the olive oil. And I want to give a taste test just using one little corn chip. Get a good portion on there. The taste was fine, but I'm going to add a little bit of comino and some more salt to increase the flavor to my liking. And of course, do the same thing to your liking. Give it another shake and another taste test. Make sure we are where we want to be. This was good, but one ingredient I did forget to add was cilantro. And now for the star of the show, some grass-fed skirt steak we're going to use for the beef fajitas. You can see there's really nice marbling on there. These came out really good. I do suggest getting some of the best that you can afford. And just some minor trimming of some fat and silver skin off the back side. The 2 Gringos Chupacabra Brisket Magic was the only rub I used on this. And let me tell you, if you've never tried that seasoning, you need to give it a try. Flip it over, And we're going to season the backside as well. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Get a nice coating on the front and the back. And you can see the edges there are nice and thick. I'm lifting them up to season those edges also. Now this is going to sit for a while. Let's give it a squeeze of lime. I'm going to let this sit for quite a while I light my grill. And I'm going to get my salmon on the grill first. My salmon was partially thawed. I didn't get it thawed all the way through, so it went on the grill actually frozen. So it would take longer than the beef skirt steak. Giving a little peek at it now after about 12 minutes on the grill, putting it a little bit closer to the fire and adding my beef. Now they should both cook roughly about the same amount of time. And you want to give temp checks every so often so you can make sure you're not overcooking or removing your food before it's done. So whether I put the salmon on at the same time, frozen or not, or whether I put them on at different times, that thermometer, the temp check, is the telltale sign of if we are done or not. So I reached an internal temp of about 100 to 110 degrees, and then it's over the coals for searing off the skirt steak, a little spritz of olive oil, and I let this go for roughly about 30 to 40 seconds, and then I will give it a flip to sear the other side as well. And you might see some flame pop up there, and that's just fine. It is not burning. It is just searing the outside to a nice charred flavor. And like I said, don't rely on your timing. Use your thermometer to check the temperature to get the doneness that you want for your liking. I feel my skirt steak is at a good temperature there to give it another flip. And now I'm just checking the color. As long as the internal has not reached the level of doneness that I want, I just continue to give it a flip every 30 seconds or so I can get a nice sear on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and call that to the temp I want from the last reading. Now my salmon's going over, and I'm just going to sear the skin side down. I'm not going to turn it over. Once it reaches about 135 to 140, I'm removing everything. That was 135 to 140 on the salmon. And I'm just going to give some tortillas that I bought at the bakery section of my supermarket here in Texas at HEB. Just get some char on the tortillas. You can see them bubble up really nicely there. And it just adds another level of flavor to the entire thing. If I was inside, I would have my cast iron pan nice and hot and just warm my tortillas up or just give them a little browning using my cast iron pan over the grill, just over the coals. And this doesn't take more than about 10 to 20 seconds. And you'll see them bubble up like you see there. And give them a flip. Get some browning on the other side. As I'm removing them, you can't see it on camera fully, but I'm stacking them. One last tortilla. This is just cooking for myself and for cooking demonstration purposes, not for the entire family or anything. Get the doneness I want. Now, when you're done with your Weber, close down your vents. You'll trap the air, you'll put out your charcoal, and you will have charcoal in there ready for your next cook. Now, I'm cutting these in sections with the grain. I'm not going to eat it that way, but you'll see here shortly. Now, I hope you see the medium that's on there, the color. So now those sections that I cut with the grain, I'm cutting those across the grain. And this will increase the amount of tenderness. See the color and see how easy that pulls apart. You don't get that when you cut in long strips with the grain. Against the grain, to finish that cut is what you want. So now let's build up a taco. First thing I'm going to do is grab some meat, put it in there. If you like yours a little more done than this, that's up to you. Feel free to cook it to a higher internal temperature. I believe I pulled these off between 125 to 130. I'm going to add some shredded cheese, and that is some Colby and Jack cheese. And now the pico de gallo, right on top of the whole thing. Now it's time to give a taste test for these. Let's take a look. All the ingredients are there, nice and fresh. Let me tell you folks, these came out very, very good. You can see the smile building on my face. I really did like these. Very well done as far as the method, not the meat. And now let's build up a nice fish taco using the salmon. Just like we cut the beef. Now it's not going to matter going against the grain, across the grain with the fish. We're just going to cut some strips, just like about the same width as the skirt steak. Grab a tortilla on the plate. Let's load up some pieces of salmon. And this came out so good, it's falling apart when I grab it with the tongs. You can see it there. And yes, I am a skin eater. So some people like to peel their skin off. I think the skin adds more flavor. And I char it for the crispiness. And there are some omega-3 fats in that skin also. A little bit of the pico de gallo. And let's add some of our Colby and Jack shredded cheese. There we go. Now let's give this a taste test also. Let's take a look at all of our ingredients in there. Nice and fresh. Now when I say here it comes, oh yeah, I was having a moment here. This came out better, much better than I ever thought it would. You've got to try this with salmon. This is one of those methods you really do need to try. It was a hot and fast cook, all charcoal inside the slow and sear, and all the cooking over the coals. Well, I'm done cooking and I'm about to edit video to show you this recipe. One thing, this right here, 2 Gringos, the Chupacabra, this is the bomb. You've got to try this seasoning. It's available here in Texas and HEB and some other locations. If you can find it where you are, you got to try this. Try it on beef, try it on salmon. That's what I did today. And I still can't stop eating. Beef fajita tacos, salmon tacos with pico de gallo, homemade, and just some store-bought, bakery store-bought tortillas, but I did lightly grill the surface of those. This came out excellent. You got to try it. Now, I'm not endorsed by any of the products you see here.